huge special guest today. We have Serge of the BKFC. We are extremely excited to have you on. How are you, man? We're really
I'm
excited to talk with you.
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sorry. I know you got the bait and switch. You're supposed to have Feldman, and you got
You're
you
good.
got stuck with me. But I'll tell you, I don't do interviews, so there's a little bonus for you
It's
guys.
it's actually funny though because last time we were trying to speak with you and you had like a call to take, and I said I really wanted to speak with him. So I'm actually glad that you're on. It ends up working out in the end. It ends up
Uh,
working out in the
Oh,
end.
that's right. It was that club there after the weigh-ins, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we sat down. We got like 2 minutes in, and then I got called away by Feldman. It was by Feldman calling me for a meeting.
All good, man. But yeah, man, we're extremely excited for this event. It's a tremendous one. I say you guys even outdid yourselves from last time in March. And to be honest, I'm extremely excited that you guys are back in South Florida. Where did the decision come from to bring this huge event back to this area?
I mean, we're at the Hard Rock 4 times a year. We
Hmm.
do we did March. We usually do February, and then we'll do July, and then we'll do September and December. Just this year, because of a couple conflicting events and stuff, we didn't get started until instead of February, our first event was in March. So we had a little
Yep.
bit of a layover because we did our last event in December, and then we ended up March 27th. Now we have July 12th. We'll have September 12th, and then we'll have an event in December. So there's our home away from home, man. We love it here. I live here. We have a lot of great fighters. We know that South Florida is a mecca.
Hmm.
That's it's a hotbed for combat sports, and we're excited to be here. And we have a great home with the Hard Rock. So as many times as we can get in there, we do. And we're nothing. We're not short of talent. So we could
Hmm.
rotate these guys through, and it's amazing. We got good cards every single time.
100%. And in my opinion, I think this card is even better than the last one. What do you feel about this card that even gives it a slight advantage over the one in late March?
I think from start to finish, this card is so evenly matched, and we're starting to see, the come up of our sport, right?
Hmm.
When Dave Feldman set out to do this, he didn't have a lot of a lot of fighters to pick from, and now you have, guys and girls that want to be involved. They want to fight bare knuckle, like they don't, they want to find a way to skip MMA and skip boxing. They just want to get
Yeah.
straight to it, and that's why we're seeing you're having some gyms emerge where all of a sudden now you're having bare knuckle gyms. And Feldman always said it. He's like, man, when we see bare knuckle gyms opening up, because you have boxing gyms, you have MMA gyms, you have jiu-jitsu gyms, you have all types of gyms. But Dave said, he's like, man, we know we've really made it and arrived once we start seeing bare knuckle gyms open up, and we're starting to see it.
Mhm.
And listen, the beauty of it is that combat sports, you could have a gym with everything in there, but you're having gyms that are focusing on bare knuckle.
No, and objectively, it's a beautiful thing that the
Yeah.
BKFC has been rising the way it has. I spoke with Conor McGregor at the press conference last time, and I asked him what really separated the BKFC for him, and he said it's purity. He said it's the rawest form of combat that he's seen. Do you agree with Conor McGregor, and do you see that purity on display happening for this event as well?
I do. I agree with him 100%. And listen, it is the purest form of fighting, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just raw, and you don't have to be professionally trained to get into a fist fight. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be technical, put on some gloves and get inside a boxing ring with a referee. You got to know the rules. You got to be classically trained. If not, you're just going to look out of sorts. But I mean, it goes back to like I tell everybody, like I grew up in combat sports. I was wrestling as a kid, and I would tell my friends, hey, I got a wrestling match tonight. You want to come watch me in the gym? Nobody was showing up. I told those same friends, hey, and it happened for me from experience. Hey, I'm getting in a fist fight today after school at the parking lot.
Mhm.
Everybody would show up. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nobody wanted to watch my wrestling matches. They'd be glad to watch my fist fights. And I think it's something to be said about it. And Feldman says it all the time. It is pure, and the beauty of it is that kind of going to what I was saying is you can go in a room and ask people, and Feldman always uses this example. You can go around a room and ask people, do you know what an omoplata is? Do you know what an Ezekiel choke is? And everybody's gonna look at you like you have two heads. You ask them, do you know what a fist, like a bare knuckle fist to the face is? And they're all gonna say yes, and they're all gonna know exactly what it is, right? So, our sport is very fast paced, and then it's exciting. And to go back to your original question about this card, everything's leveled up. Like all these
Mhm.
fighters now, it's hard to match somebody. Like I can't. It's hard. Like when Brian Duran was 1-0 or 2-0. I can match him with somebody that's at that level right now. Duran's at 7-1. I can't throw him against somebody that's 2-0 or somebody that's 2-1. It doesn't look right, right? But it gets harder. But now that you have some of these other guys that are stepping up, and they're getting enough fights, and they're getting they're getting their record up to an acceptable pace where, maybe he's fighting somebody that's 6-2, 7-2. It's before, it was harder to find guys in bare knuckle that had that many fights, but we built this sport and Dave's been at it for so long that now you have guys and girls that have plenty of fights. They have 10 fights in bare knuckle. Before, it was hard to find that. So you're seeing the evolution of the sport. So right now it's easier to level up and like get these fights where they're all evenly matched from start to finish. And that's what you're going to see Saturday, July 12th at the Hard Rock. And it's going to be from start to finish, evenly matched fights. And listen, I have a lot of friends that, they're reaching out to me saying, hey man, you killed my parlays, because before it was easy for them to pick the winner of these fights, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
kind of knew. It's getting hard to pick it up now because, I mean, I think, where was it? It was in New Mexico. I think we had 6 upsets, and in Mohegan Sun, something
Crazy,
along the same, right? So you're
crazy.
saying that you're seeing the change.
And speaking of change, I did want to also address the fact that BKFC's really risen as of late. I mean, the popularity of the sport has drastically improved, I would say, in 2025, let alone in the last few years. What would you say has really ignited and initiated that recent momentum of the sport?
I mean, it goes to show, the work that we've put in, the
Yeah.
time and the money that's been invested into this promotion, right? I mean, look, you got to invest in your growth, right? And a lot of people will tell you that they want to invest into their business, but you got to really own it, and you got to be willing to put everything on the table. Listen, it's no secret. Dave Thumbin mentioned it. One of the fights we had in Colorado, when he addressed our fighters, he goes, guys, I mortgaged my house to come up with the balance of the money that I needed to pull off this event, right? So, that's somebody that's all in, and
Yes.
he is all in. And I think just signing the right people and putting these fights together the right way, the way we do our production. I don't know. I don't know if you know, but Dave Feldman's son, Dave Feldman Jr., he's in charge of our production, and he's a perfectionist. And
Mhm.
when you go to our events, I mean, you see it.
It's
You see,
elite. It's elite. Objectively, I agree for sure.
yeah.
And overall, I mean, a lot of people think something like this happens overnight, but they don't see the years and years and years and years of hard work, dedication, money, effort. And it really goes to show because the BKFC is really starting to take over right now, and it's becoming a true pleasure of the fans to watch these events.
Yeah, and listen, I think when Dave came up with this idea of bare knuckle, he wrote these rules perfectly, right? Because remember, he's the one that came up with it. He's the one that designed the whole thing. It's 2-minute rounds. There's only five. It's fast. Like, if from the beginning, if you've been around this long enough, I mean, you hear a lot of times the coaches will tell their fighter before the round even starts, "Hey, you only got 2 minutes. You got to get busy, right? You don't got 5 minutes, right?"
Mhm.
So there's a sense of urgency. You start 3 feet apart. All right, so we're in a society right now where you lose people's attention real fast. It's hard to lose people's attention in this because it's so exciting, and the rounds are fast. And like, between rounds, you have the break, but we get right back to it 3 feet apart. You don't have the ground game. You don't have the grappling component of it. If you're in trouble, you can't take somebody down and then just try to
Lay on them
kill.
for all
Yeah,
round. Yeah.
yeah. It's boring, right? I mean, so I think it was brilliantly like put together. Dave really thought it out. He knew, as a fan, he knew exactly what the fans want to see, and he put together the perfect sport, in my opinion. And that's why we're having the success we're having. And right now, like, people ask, like, who's your competition? There's really only one competition for BKFC right now, and that's the UFC. Right? They're number one, we're number two, and there's no denying that. And that's all it is. Will we ever catch them? I don't know. Do we have a we respect the UFC, and Dave will always say it. Dave's met with Dana and the top brass over there, and there's nothing but respect. There isn't. Where we know we're two completely different combat sports, but like, again, like, that's who we're chasing, and hopefully, one day we get there. And if we don't, look, I always say it, and Dave will tell you the same thing. Um, Winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. Right? So we can't focus on them. We're focusing on what we're doing, and hopes that one day we get to where they are. Listen, we've been growing and we're at a steady climb, and in reality, our trajectory is outpacing them from where they were in their first 7 years of existence. But we are where we are only because of them, and we know that, and we nod our
Mhm.
hat to that, right?
No, I
So
definitely respect that, and I definitely agree that the UFC has been such a pioneer for these other combat organizations. When you mentioned that you guys are really rising, as I mentioned as well, where do you see the BKFC at the end of 2025? Where do you see the trajectory? A little early prediction.
well, I think You're going to hear a lot of great things at our press conference on Thursday. It'll
I'm
be a good
excited.
indicator of where we're going to be, launching in 2026. One of the big announcements that Dave's going to make. I don't know if Dave's making it or Connor, but there's going to be a lot of back and forth between them because Connor is the host of the presser. Um, but Dave will be making a lot of the announcements, so I'm not sure which one will say it. But there's a lot of things that are give you a good indication of where we are positioning ourselves to be to start 2026. But what I will tell you is, where we are now, we're going to finish the year really strong. And I think by the end of 2026, we'll be significantly stronger and larger than we are today.
Oh, I definitely see that for sure. And you have a tremendous, super marketable fighter in this card in Perdomo. I mean, that guy is something else. When we saw
Yeah.
his fight last time, I took out my phone. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get some footage of this guy boxing around, going back and forth. He put him away right away. I was like, wow, that was sensational. How do you feel about that kid? How do you feel about it?
Listen, he wastes no time. What I do take pride in is, um, I mean, I want to say I discovered Perdomo at a tryout in Delray Boxing Gym, and I saw him. Um, he was actually wearing his church clothes. He didn't go to try out. He went to meet me. Some friends of mine that knew him that had discovered him and actually taken him off the streets because he was homeless for a while when he got here from Cuba. His story's crazy. So I can't be more excited. The first time I saw him and I saw him on a heavy bag, once he changed out of his church clothes and I got him some shoes and shorts and a t-shirt and I heard him hit that bag. I mean, I wasn't even looking at him, but I heard it and I looked over to my right because it's a different sound when that man hits a heavy bag. Not only the power, but the technique that he has. And I looked over and it was him. And I walked over and he kind of just smiled at me. And, you know, he only spoke Spanish. He asked me, I'm going to keep going. I said, yeah, keep hitting that bag. He just kept hitting that bag. And then I said, man, I got to see you on some mitts. Put him on some mitts. And I said, you want to spar? He's like, yeah, I want to kill somebody. I was like, all right. I mean, and he really tried to kill somebody. He got it. We put him in with some guy who was like 6'7", and I think he knocked him out in 13 seconds. Knocked him out
Man.
cold.
Oh
Uh,
man.
yeah, it was kind of scary.
Wow.
And I said, look, you want to fight
Wow.
for real? You want to take off the gloves? I'll give you a fight. He's like, are you serious? You're gonna give me a fight? I said, I'll give you a fight. And that's when he fought August 24th. That we had a 2-day event, August 24th, 25th at the fairgrounds in Miami at where they do the youth fair. And that
Right.
was his debut. And we haven't looked back since then. And he's gonna be, I mean, he's already getting there, but he will be a major, major superstar.
Oh, yeah, he's already one of the biggest, and he's so young and so early into the process, and he's looking better with every fight. I also wanna know, what do you think is the sleeper fight of this card? A fight that isn't maybe getting that much attention, but you really feel may not necessarily steal the show, but will get a lot of attention.
I'm really excited. We have Boswick making his return, and he's fighting against Leo Carrera, and I think that fight has a potential to be very exciting. It just depends on styles make matches, and I think they're two completely different styles. Um, we know Leo's going to try to keep his distance, and we know the type of fighter Brutal Boswick is. He's just going to come in and try to get in and make it really, really bad, like really messy and really bloody. So I think that's one I have my eye on. I think that could be a major sleeper. Um, so I'm really looking forward to that fight, and I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
see how that plays out.
It's gonna be a great card overall. What would you say to someone who's getting new into combat sports, who is just getting into the UFC, just getting into BKFC? What would you tell them about the BKFC if they don't know anything about it?
And I'm not saying it just because I'm a part of it. It's the most exciting combat sport there is. It really is. I mean, nothing compares to it. Listen, I was an MMA guy. I grew up grappling. I understand the grappling side of it, but uh, Dave Feldman kind of ruined it for me. I'm not gonna lie. Once I saw this for the first time and I saw the way he conducts himself and he carries himself, I was hooked, man. There's something about Dave Feldman that is contagious. I'm very close to him and I get to spend a lot of time with him. Um,
Love
and
that.
nobody works harder than him and nobody's more passionate, nobody's more dedicated and willing to risk it all for this. And it really is. It's contagious, man. And I love to be around it. I love to be a part of it. So for me, it starts with him and then it trickles down to our fighters, man. And the way our fights play out and how exciting. Just if you come to a fight, I mean, it's one thing watching it on TV, you will be hooked, but if you come in person, it'll change your life. Honestly, I really do mean that. As a combat sports fan, it'll change your life. And listen, we've had women that aren't fight fans, have never even been to a fight, come to our fights and get hooked to it. Like they're
It's
just, I
electric.
can't wait to come back. It really is. It's something that it's hard to explain unless you experience it. It really is.
You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like Dave Feldman knows this is the entertainment business. We're not here to argue who wins in the fight between a boxer and an MMA fighter. No, we're here to give the fans an enjoyable event, and that's what the BKFC has done a perfect job of doing. They've made sure to
100%.
make it an entertaining spectacle for everyone to watch.
Yes, agreed. And it's listen, man, you really I know it's cliche, but the don't blink saying, like you really can't blink. You can't like listen, you could be in an MMA fight, get up and go to the bathroom, make a sandwich, come back, and you got two guys are still dry humping
Still laying on
themselves.
each other,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, here you make a mistake and you turn around, get up, go to the bathroom, whatever it may be. You come back, the fight's over. Especially if it's somebody like Perdomo fighting. Like these fights end quick. Like we've had fights where we have 12 cards on the fight, we have 12 knockouts, and our average fight lasts less than 3 rounds. Right? It
Beautiful.
does. I mean, we're at 2.5 rounds is really what you get in one of our fights, and that's part of the reason that our fights are bloody, yes, but our fights are safer. That's why our concussion rates are way lower than boxing, way lower than MMA.
Much.
And we were able to prove that, and that was Dave's fit. Listen, Dave Feldman's a very smart man. He knew it in his mind. It's like this got to be safer, and everybody thought he was crazy. But guess what? With time, he proved it, and
100%.
that's yeah. So it's
So,
been a
Serge, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Really, genuinely was awesome to speak with you. You have a lot of knowledge in the situation, and we're really glad to have been able to actually have a discussion with you. So, it's truly a pleasure. You have any final thoughts and words to the people watching about the event?
I'll tell you this. Thursday, we're kicking off Thursday with this press conference, which is state of the promotion, which is kind of like the State of the Union, with the
Love
president of the U.S. There's a president of BKFC. So Dave Feldman will do a state of the promotion. Connor's hosting it. We got such a crazy response. We were going to use one space that only allowed about 350 people, and just with the feedback we've gotten, we're expecting over 1,000 to
Oh,
show up.
man.
So we're going to a bigger space, but we're kicking it off with that, which is amazing. All of our champions are going to be in the house. Like there's going to be some major news dropped. Dave Feldman, I mean, he's going to freak people out. It's just going to be, one thing after another. Very exciting stuff, very exciting times. And then the next day, we know we have the weigh-ins. We're going to have a pretty cool weigh-ins with some face-offs and some interactions between some of the matchups and the fighters. So that'll be exciting. And then what you've all seen the card on Saturday, man. And it's going to be, I hate to say it's going to be a movie because like that saying gets so played out, but this is going to be a movie. And like I told you, it's going to be rated R. I mean, forget R. It's going to be rated V for violence because it's going to be violent.
So basically, the final message: watch that press conference, watch the
Yes.
event. It's going to be sensational. It's going to be a great event overall, and get ready, guys, because the BKFC they really are making a splash. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for your time. It was really a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
All right. You too.